streets of Brooklyn, where stories grow wild, to the glow of the stage where the dream meets the child. A quiet flame, a hidden spark, drawn to the words that lit up the dark. Curtains rose and so did he, finding power in poetry. One voice, one mic, one sacred truth. Every word he spoke uncaged the youth. He saw the world try to silence the bold, but his soul was wired to break the mold.
Hello and welcome to Born to Speak to You TV, where conversations create connections and where stories uplift the moments that matter. I'm your host, Calvin Gibbs, and tonight we are exploring a topic that every culture, every generation, every walk of life understands. It's music. Music is one of the few powerful forces that's strong enough to cross over every line that we draw as human beings. Race, religion, politics, education, neighborhood, background, it really doesn't matter. A good melody doesn't check out your credentials. A strong rhythm doesn't ask for your political association. And a song that touches the soul doesn't care about the box that society puts you in. And that's why tonight we highlight the Come Together Music Project, a movement that uses the universal language of music to bridge divides and create community. This project reminds us that when we hear a shared beat, we find shared humanity. My guest tonight is Shaka Mitchell. He is the creator of the Come Together Music Project, and we'll be right back after this short message. This is Calvin Gibbs with Born to Speak to You TV, and here's your Born to Rise tips. Sometimes the best things you can do is not think, not wonder, not imagine, don't obsess. Just breathe and have faith that everything will work out for the best. Oftentimes we make ourselves sick, worrying, obsessing, having anxiety about what's going to be. Just have faith that everything is going to come out okay. And usually it does. The things that you're worrying about have no merit in your life. They're there to confuse you, to make you feel weak, to make you feel inadequate. So the best thing you can do is don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Don't wonder about it. Don't obsess over it. Just have faith that everything will work out for the best.
From the streets of Brooklyn, where stories grow wild, to the glow of the stage where the dream meets the child. A quiet flame, a hidden spark, drawn to the words that lit up the dark.
And we are back. This is Born to Speak to You TV. I'm your host, Calvin Gibbs, and I just want to shortly read some of my guest bio. Today we have Shaka Mitchell on with us, and his bio, it's a short book. This brother has been busy doing some things, but right now he serves as a senior fellow for the American Federation for Children, based in Nashville. He is a lawyer, a facilitator, and national leader in education reform policy. He brings experience from several high-performing charter school networks, including the Rocket Ship Education and Lead Public Schools that serve over 2,500 students in Nashville. He began his career in education as an associate director of policy and planning at the DC-based Center for Educational Reform. He's alumnus of Belmont University, where he has taught American government and constitutional law as an adjunct faculty member. He is the past chair of the Tennessee State Advisory Committee to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. He's a member of the American Enterprise Institute's Leadership Network and Civil Society Fellowship, a project of the Aspen Institute, and he's also the creator of the Come Together Music Project, which uses music to find common ground between people from divergent political, ideological, social, economical backgrounds. And he and his wife, Dr. Stephanie Mitchell, are members of the Edgefield Church in Nashville and are parents to 3 school-aged children. Whew! Shaka, welcome to Born to Speak to You. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing so well. Thank you for having me on, Calvin. I really appreciate being here. Thank you for the time.
It is a pleasure. Just a true reveal. I was going through LinkedIn one day and happened to see one of your posts, and it was so in line with the mission of Born to Speak to You, which is speak life into the moments that matter. You were talking about the children educational systems and getting the playing field on a level playing field. And I was like, yeah, he's speaking life into this problem.
Absolutely.
And from there we reached out, and here we are today. So again, thank you for being a guest on our show. Now, as I like to say, let's jump right into the deep end, because that's where the party's at.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So let's jump right to it. As far as the Come Together Music Project, what inspired you to start that?
Yeah, thank you. So 2 things really inspired me to start the Come Together Music Project, which really is just a passion project. Though this year I was really pleased to be able to get a board together, and we incorporated as an official 501c3 nonprofit organization. But it's really 2 things that inspired me. The first thing was that this project kind of came out of the height of COVID, when, as we all know, we were losing friends and family around us. Many of us were just losing connection with the people that mattered most in our lives. And I felt that acutely, just like many people did around the world, certainly in Nashville where I lived. And I started getting together with some friends, listening to music together once a month. Just a few of us from church would get together. We'd sit in the driveway at a friend's house, and we would listen to music. We'd all bring a few songs, and each person would say, here's the why I picked this song. And we'd listen to it, and then we'd talk a little bit about it. And what I found is that it was great to hear new music. I love music. I know that you are a fan of music as well. So it was great to hear new music. But what was more important is that we were hearing life stories about people. We were learning about one another. So that's one inspiration. The second inspiration, really just, or more reaction, is the time we're in right now. It's such a fraught time politically and even conversationally, where a lot of people have lost the ability to even be in communication with people who are different from them. There are some statistics that somewhere around 1/3 of Gen Z doesn't even want to go home for Thanksgiving because they don't want to have hard political conversations. But, that's crazy that we are losing even our family bonds because we've forgotten how to speak with them. I thought, I think if we take asking Calvin, it's really 2 things that inspired me to start the project. I would say one was kind of a pull factor, and the other is a push factor. What pulled me towards it was, if you remember the time during COVID when not just lives were lost, but human connection was lost. And I was really feeling that. And so what I started doing was getting together once a month with some friends of mine from church, and we would sit together in one of my friends' driveways, socially distanced, and we would each bring a few songs. We'd select a few songs, and we would, say, here's why I picked this song. And then we'd listen to it, and then people would explain it. And, I love music. I know that you like music too. And so it was great to hear new music and be introduced to maybe some music that I'd never heard before. But the more important thing was that we were learning about one another. I was hearing about a song. I remember my friend picked a song that was a lovely song that I'd never heard before. But really, he picked it because it reminded him of what it was like to drop his daughter off at college. for the first time, right? He's taking his baby girl to school, and just kind of how he felt about that. Another time, a friend picked a song, and he ended up telling a story about his father, and he didn't have a great relationship. It sort of had its ups and downs, as many of ours do. And we learned a lot about this friend that this man that I had known for years, but I learned more about. That was the pull factor. The push factor that led me to start the Come Together Music Project is just the time that we're in right now. Something like 1/3 of Gen Z doesn't want to go home for Thanksgiving because they don't want to have conversations around politics and other things around the Thanksgiving dinner table. And I thought, that is a tragedy, that we're going to lose family bonds and friendships because we have forgotten how to humanize one another. And so I thought, I wonder if we can take what I'm doing with the music on one side and use it to try to deepen existing relationships, create new ones, and build bridges. And so that's really how the Come Together Music Project came to life.
Okay. And I was going to ask you, how did the name Come Together come about, but you just explained that. So I know you had a vision for the project when you first started. How has it changed to this point?
Yeah. At first, I really thought, well, this could just be a tool and we'll see how it goes. And I told some friends about it. I told a group that I am affiliated with you mentioned it during your introduction. It's called the Civil Society Fellowship. And those are folks from around the country who are all interested in how we improve civil discourse in the United States, which I think we all agree is necessary. Something like 75% of people think that, think that this is an important thing, that we recapture our ability to speak with one another in a civil way. So I told them about it. They were really encouraging of the project. I launched a podcast, and I said, well, let's just see if this works. And I did it, and just from the jump, had a really good time. The conversations that were happening were great. Things always go in directions that I couldn't predict, because we end up saying, hey, let's pick a song that reminds you of your hometown, for instance. And someone might pick a song, but it always takes us in a direction that we, could not have imagined going in. And so I did that. And then we've been doing some live events now. I've done I did a live event in Arizona at the Arizona State University College of Law. And we had a Supreme Court justice and a Court of Appeals judge as the guests. And so we asked them a series of questions. They brought their music to answer the questions. That's the format of the show. And we had a great time. And I will tell you, you will be very surprised what these two men picked as, for their selections to answer some of these questions.
Okay, well, now I'm intrigued. Can you tell us who they were and what the selections were?
Absolutely. So the Supreme Court justice is a judge by the name of Clint Bolick. Mm-hmm. And Justice Bolick is more of a conservative justice on the court, conservative libertarian justice on the court. Then the other judge is a Court of Appeals judge in Arizona named Andrew Beck. He was just appointed by the Democratic governor. And so he's a more progressive, you say politically, judge. They had never met before. And then we're sitting in a room. We had an audience of community members, students, other attorneys were in the room. And I asked them 4 questions. And each one of them, they had to each bring a song that matches with one of these questions. And the questions were, what's a song that reminds you of your hometown? What's one that takes you back to law school? What's a song that got you through a difficult season in life? And then the last one was, what's a song that you associate with justice? Because they're judges, of course. And so during every session, I curate the songs based on the guests, and that we follow that format. And so
yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So for instance, in the song about hometown, Justice Bolick picked a song by Billy Joel It's called Allentown. I didn't know the song. And he's not from Allentown. Allentown's a small town in Pennsylvania, but he is from a small town in New Jersey that was pretty close. And he said, Allentown is kind of a hard scrabble, blue collar town. He said, and where I grew up in New Jersey, we wished we could live in a place like Allentown because it was, just a really tough place to grow up. And as he's talking about this, I asked him, I followed up and I said, did you always know that you wanted to be a judge or a lawyer? And he said, no, absolutely not. He said, when he grew up, he remembered, and he got a little emotional when he talked about this. He said he grew up and would look out the window at the sanitation truck drive by and think that would be a great job to have because it was a steady job. It had benefits, right? And he said, so that was kind of the aspirational job. Here's this man who's a highly accomplished lawyer, Supreme Court justice. You would never have imagined that that was part of his story, but that's exactly the point, right? Is for the audience and even his other guests to humanize this man and sort of say, we can't just make assumptions based on the person that I see in front of me. Everyone has a story to tell, and I really believe music helps us tell those stories.
Indeed. I truly believe that as well. That's one of the reasons why a few months after the pandemic got started, I created my podcast, Diverse Talking Heads podcast, where I moderate a panel of people from different backgrounds, different sexual orientations, religions, whatever. And we talk about whatever we want to talk about from a diverse point of view. It's a great way to get to know people. And back to music, I remember back when I was in high school, in the cafeteria, I would, or a group of us would start just tapping beats on the table with a bunch of guys we didn't even know at the time because it was a huge high school, one of the biggest high schools in the country at the time, Brooklyn Technical High School in New York. So we're at the table. There's one guy's a Puerto Rican, another Jamaican, a white guy, and I guess he was a rocker from his attire. I was the African-American guy, was the Haitian guy, and we're just jamming, just jamming. Then one person would start humming a melody. It's like, okay, well, that sounds good. Let's keep it going. Somebody else added a harmony. Then somebody jumped in with some lyrics, and we would do this like several days of the week. And that actually became, our crew. And give decades later, we're still friends. We have kept together through social media. We've lived life together, and we all live in different parts of the world. We did lose a couple of guys, but we're still friends. And that was all because of music. So I have another question for you. Talking about in more like a concert environment, a musical concert. I know I've seen this happen, but have you seen music bring people together across racial and cultural divides in that type of environment?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say absolutely. And I think that's something that's so special about music is its ability to, just as you said in your introduction, I agreed with everything you said, is that music has got this unique power to bring people together. It's such a bonding element, right? I mean, you just think about it. Think about what happens if you're walking through the city and someone is just standing, a stranger is just standing on the street singing at the top of their lungs. That's strange, except that's exactly what we do when we go to a concert. We go to a concert and we're standing among hundreds, thousands of total strangers singing at the top of our lungs, and we pay money to do it, right? So there are certain venues where this works. One place where I have seen the power of music really be used to bring people along together to shape the mood is the music that's played at sporting events. Right? If you think about the sometimes that intro music, say when the football team is coming in, coming on the field, and the whole stadium, colleges are great at this. The whole stadium is just rocking with this. The New Orleans Saints have their own song,
That's
and
right.
and everybody who goes to a Saints game knows, all right, the music's starting. And that is a diverse city, if ever there was one, New Orleans, right?
True.
And so you've got people from all walks of life, all different backgrounds, languages even, and they are all kind of using that music as a way to say, hey, you know what? We are all on the same team. We're all on the same page. We're putting everything else aside, at least for these 60 minutes. It's a pretty powerful thing.
Indeed, indeed. And when we were first talking about a month ago, I mentioned to you that I had visited your hometown of Nashville, the country musical capital of the country, I dare say of the world.
Yep.
And when my wife and I visited there on vacation, we listened to some country. We had a couple, CDs in the car. We listened to some stations, but really wasn't into it and didn't know what to expect from the people there. And man, we had a great time. Blacks, whites, whoever it was, everybody was just partying and grooving together, enjoying the music. Almost every bar or place we went to had music,
Yep.
a lot of live music, and everybody just enjoying it. I was like, this is really cool, man. So your idea of sharing music in the garage space or the driveway space come next spring, well, it won't thaw out here in Illinois until almost summer, but I'm going to try that. I usually bring out a cold one for the guys, the neighbors, and we, stand around and talk. Now we're going to sit down and listen to some music. I'm going to see if I can introduce them to that technique.
I love it.
And I'll be in touch with you to let you know how that works. I'm looking for great results from it.
Please do.
Yes, indeed. So let's talk about political differences. Have political differences, we talked about the judges and all, but I'm talking about true blue and red. Shall we go there? Differences, have they shown up in your project, and how has music helped bridge them?
Yeah, they absolutely do show up. But, one of the things that I try to do is show that music can really be used to deepen relationships, even when people do already know one another. But absolutely, it can be used as a bridge. So I'll give you another example. I did one episode with two gentlemen. One is a, sort of red state, red background, if you will, more conservative guy. The other is in I guess he's in a purple state, but he's actually from New Orleans. Democratic guy, liberal guy. He's has been a public defense lawyer down there, and though he's also a jazz musician and actually he's really got a classical background. Nevertheless, I asked these two men, one of the questions I asked them to reflect on, but I said, "What's a song that you associate with COVID?" And they thought of this, and they each brought back a song, and as it turned out, both of them picked songs that had something to do with guns. And they told stories a little bit about this. On the one hand, the one gentleman picked a song. It was called Woke Up This Morning, Got Yourself a Gun, which is the theme song to The Sopranos. Because when COVID hit, everybody's at home again, and he started rewatching The Sopranos. And he said, yeah, it's one of my favorite series, so I started watching. But he also said that where he lives, everything was shut down except there was one parking lot that was always full, the gun shop. Okay, that's one. The other gentleman picked a song that reminded him of something that happened during COVID, which was actually when he had to evacuate New Orleans, because that's when Hurricane Ida came through. And on his way back into town, he found himself trying to get a permit to buy a handgun so that he could keep he and his family safe as he drove back into town with all these supplies and water and gasoline and whatnot. And he said, I couldn't believe it. I'm not really a gun guy, but people kept sending me warnings that said, well, you got to make sure you're protecting yourself. So we ended up having this really interesting conversation about gun culture in the United States. Because, if you think about it, there's nothing obvious as to why guns would come up in the middle of a natural disaster, weather, or a health pandemic. But right, like those two things, you cannot shoot at either one of those two things.
Right.
But we ended up having a really rich discussion about that. And I would say that there's no way we would have had that discussion if I would have just said, hey, do you two want to come in and talk about guns or the Second Amendment? No way. People don't have those conversations. But we came in through the side door using music as our tool, and it was a fantastic conversation.
I bet it was. I remember, well, I am a target shooting enthusiast, and I remember that during the pandemic, buying ammunition was extremely hard. It was like all of the supply places were out of stock, and the few that did get it, of course, they raised the price on it. And I started to think to myself, what is this that's causing? I understand a shortage of food. People, they're hoarding the food, but is the same thing going on with firearms and ammunition? And unfortunately, the answer I came up with, it was that mentality. And that is strange that they will both pick songs with guns in it. Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. Do you have any younger people that's involved in your project?
I actually just did an interview with a group out of Colorado that works with youth who have been challenged by various childhood trauma and whatnot, because for them music can be, for adults as well, music can be such a fantastic way to express yourself. And so that's one of the other reasons that I think that this project resonates with a lot of people, because if you think about how challenging it would be to sometimes express how you feel about something. So, I use myself as an example. I've got 3 daughters. If you ask me to write a song about one of my daughters, I can't do that. I'm not a songwriter. I wouldn't even try. But if you ask me to think about a song that reminds me of them, now that I can do, right?
Okay.
And I think that music helps us. Sometimes using someone else's music, even someone else's art form, helps us to access and articulate feelings that we have. And I think that can be really, really helpful for younger folks.
Okay. Now, a little secret. I'm going to put it live here on Born to Speak to You TV. In my household, I have called myself an award-winning musical writer. However, I have never published anything. I actually have never written anything. I take what's already out there and sing it, not knowing the words, sometimes not even knowing the music. And I create in my mind a hit. And I tell my wife, this is going to be a hit. She's like, you're not singing it right. Yes, I am. In my head, this is working. So this is a hit. And just like you, if I had to write a song about my daughter, I couldn't. I really couldn't do it. She's as the same with your daughters. I'm sure they're so complex, probably different. That would be extremely hard to do. I have a question about the music. The people that's involved with you, do they create original music, or do they reinterpret existing music?
Yeah, I ask people to just bring a song that reminds them of or sort of responds to one of the 3 or 4 prompts that I give them. So it could be original music. In fact, in 2026, we are starting to do a series of live events in Nashville. We're going to be partnering with TEDx Nashville. And so we'll do these monthly events, 50 to 75 people, sort of small shows, if you will. And I know already that we've got some music artists that are lined up to be guests on the project. But really, you don't need to be musical to do it. I think that one of my favorite quotes is that every memory has a soundtrack all its own. And I think that's true regardless of whether or not you know how to play music or whether or not you have any particular musical ability. You can still access that. Music helps us to access memories in a really helpful way. But I do hope to have some musicians involved. And being in Music City, it only makes sense.
It only makes sense. So we're going to put a pin in it right here, but we'll be right back. This is Born to Speak to You TV. I'm your host, Calvin Gibbs. Don't leave. Stay back. Stay here. We'll be back in 60 seconds. And we are back. This is Born to Speak to You TV. I'm your host, Calvin Gibbs, and today's episode is When the Beat Breaks Barriers, the Come Together Music Project. My guest is Shaka Mitchell. And we've been having a great conversation about the Come Together Music project that he has going on. And I know that you also have a podcast, Come Together Podcast. So which came first, the musical project or the podcast?
Well, it's a great question. And I guess they sort of came in tandem. Really, the podcast was such a helpful way to test out, the format and test out to see if this idea works. I knew that the project worked when I was with my friends. What I didn't know is, could this work with complete strangers? So that first one was a little bit of a test. We had folks who did not know one another from around the country, and they were just people that I knew. And I said, hey, would you be game for this? Would you be up for this? I think I asked them about a question. I asked them for a category, a song that they associate with a road trip. I think I asked them about a song that maybe reminded them of a parent. We had one other category, but it went really well. And so from the jump, I thought, all right, I think we've got something here. And it's been helpful to refine the order and the flow on the podcast, but now we've really brought it to life and done these live events, which I think are really fun because it's trying to model it for the audience that, hey, this is something you can do. We even just put something out, an article out, so that people can do this at Thanksgiving if they want.
Okay. Now I'm going to pick your brains on your creative process. How do you choose your podcast topics?
Yes. Well, I have an intense looking spreadsheet of lots of different topics, potential topics. And then I have them categorized by different sort of domains, if you will, right? Because some of the categories are about time, right? Like I might say, Calvin, what's a song that reminds you of high school? right? And so that would be something associated with time. But then it could be a song about relationships. So, Calvin, what's a song that reminds you of one of your parents or your daughter, right? That would be a relationship song. So I have a couple different categories like that. And based on the guests, I try to, vary the domains that those questions come from. And, also knowing that you don't want things to be too heavy, right? So
Right.
if I ask for a song that is, say, about a difficult season in life, I might also ask for a song that inspires you or that brings you hope, right? Or that puts you in a good mood. Because, you don't want, I don't want people to leave one of these feeling like, oh, well, that was a real downer. We just listened to a bunch of depressing music and heard depressing stories. So again, my goal is really to uplift.
Okay, sounds good. Now, there's always going to be someone that's going to feel that they're not musical. How do you get them to join?
Yeah, that's a good question. I really try to remind folks that, again, it's not really a podcast or a project or an interview about music. It is really just using the music to tell some stories. So we're really doing storytelling, for any given, within an hour. I mean, with two guests, we might only listen to about 8 to 10 minutes worth of music. Really what we're doing is we're telling stories and we're learning about one another. And as I mentioned, everybody's got a story to tell. So the music just helps with that.
Absolutely. Now, how long have you been doing the podcast and the project?
Yeah, I've been doing this about a year in earnest. Just became an official 501c3 nonprofit in 2025, earlier this year, and started doing some live events. I think we've done now 4 live events this year already.
Wow, that's a pretty good jump out the gate there. That's great. So maybe you have enough information to answer this next question. In your opinion, what genres do you think tend to bring the most people together, or does genres not matter at all?
That's a really good question. I don't know if I have enough data to go on that. And I'll tell you again, this is just one of those places where even the same person will pick songs that are wildly different from the song that they just picked. So I told you about the event with those 2 judges. One of the justices picked he picked a song by a group called 9 Inch Nails, which is like a very kind of dark rock band. He picked that song as a song that got him through a dark season. The song that got him through law school was "Yeah" by Usher, Lil Jon, and Ludacris.
Okay. All right.
And then this, by the way, this is a white attorney from rural Arizona. And then the last song that he picked, which was a song about justice, was a song by BDP, Boogie Down Productions, called Love's Gonna Get Ya. So this is a hip hop song, classic song, KRS-One from the mid 80s.
Yeah.
All over the place. Music was all over the place. And I don't think you would have expected any of that. So I don't know that there's any magic genre. I think it's just, we'll take it all.
Okay. Man, I got to get down to Nashville to check out some of your events sometime. I think I would have a blast.
We love it. You're welcome anytime.
Okay, sounds good. Now, the next question is just forecasting in the future. How would you like the Come Together Music Project to grow in the next 5 years, let's say?
Well, I do think that this has a lot of potential to do exactly what it's called, but to bring people together. I think that we'll continue to do these live events, and at some point I might like to even start doing some trainings so that other folks can facilitate these conversations. And so, not there yet, but I think that in the next 5 years, that's something that if we want to see this really grow and scale, that's got to happen because, I'm only one person. I can only do so much. And in some ways, I feel really lucky to be able to do it because the people pick the music, they're telling the stories. I'm really just facilitating. And so I think that that can be taught. And so I think that's where it's headed.
Okay. Now, if you could, um, if the world could learn one lesson from this project, just one lesson, what would it be? Just that one, the most important lesson, what would it be?
Well, I think that the lesson would be that even when we disagree, there's so much value in listening. Right? Even though Come Together is about telling stories, there's only one person at a time telling the story. All the rest of us are listening, and we've got to do more of that.
I agree with you, man. That's why I got you on the show because we're right here.
Yeah.
To understand people, you have to listen to them. Everyone has a story, and don't really have to agree or disagree. You have to listen, and sometimes you can put yourselves in a person's shoes by listening to what they're going through or have went through, and that gives you a better understanding of how to deal with that person, see the similarities of life, and then we can all grow and get along a lot better.
That's exactly right. You said it very well. Yeah, I can't say it any better.
Yes, indeed. So, Shaka, I want to thank you for sharing your passion, your vision, and your heart with us today. The Come Together Music Project isn't just about sound, it's about soul. It's about building bridges where the world keeps trying to build walls. And for those of you watching, if you want to learn more, support the mission, or get involved with upcoming events, you can reach Shaka Mitchell and the Come Together Music Project and it's going across the screen right now. Shaka, I want to thank you for being our guest. I wish you the best, my friend. I will be in touch with you, and maybe in 2026 we have another upcoming topic, and I think you will have just fallen into place with that one: children and education.
I love it. Well, we'll see you in Nashville soon.
I hope to be. I wish I could get there for Christmas, but I can't do it this year. But I will see you soon. I promise.
Fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And we will be right back after this short message. This is Born to Speak to You TV. And we are back. This is Born to Speak to You TV. I'm your host, Calvin Gibbs. And tonight episode, we have been talking about when the beat breaks barriers. The Come Together Music Project. My guest was Shaka Mitchell, and we had a great conversation about his project and how music is actually bringing us together. Tonight reminded us of something simple but profound. Music doesn't just fill a room, it fills the space between us. It softens hearts. It opens doors. It creates conversations that might just never happen otherwise. Here on Born to Speak to You TV, we believe in using our voices as well, intentionally, purposefully, and powerfully. We believe in speaking life into the moments that matter. And sometimes the most powerful moments begin with just a single note. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and thank you for coming together with us to connect with us here at Born to Speak to You TV and see more episodes of Born to Speak to You TV. You can scan the QR code right there on your screen or visit our YouTube channel, which is Born to Speak to You. The twos are the number two with a space in between every word. And until next time, I'm your host, Calvin Gibbs, inviting you to keep listening deeply, because when you do, you create with empathy, clarity, humility, and purpose. You create something that speaks to people. And after all, it was born from truly hearing them. And as always, keep speaking life into the moments that matter. I'll see you at the next episode.
From the streets of Brooklyn, where stories grow wild, to the glow of the stage where the dream meets the child. A quiet flame, a hidden spark, drawn to the words that lit up the dark. Curtains rose, and so did he, finding power in poetry. One voice, one mic, one sacred truth. Every word he spoke uncaged the youth. He saw the world try to silence the bold, but his soul was wired to break the mold. Now he walks in purpose, pure and true. He was born to speak to you. He's got that rhythm in his truth, that fire in his flow. Speaking life into the moment, watch it grow. Every phrase, every beat, a breakthrough cue. Yeah, he was born to speak to you. Let the melody rise, let the message renew. He was born to speak to you. For mindset.
Speak life into the musical moments that matter. Speak life into the musical moments that matter.